a fun movie. It's a good time for huge hardcore Street Fighter fans. If you're a hardcore Street Fighter fan, you'll love this movie for all it does, fan service.
A lot of the stuff that they kind of just left as like weird cliffhangers in this film and like weird plot points, they actually just use that stuff later on. So it's interesting to see how much lore-wise they kind of established with this film without this film actually being canon.
I actually enjoy watching this again. I watched this a long time ago. Definitely the Chun-Li fight versus Vega is like the main thing that I remember from that movie. Is like the most iconic thing from the movie for various reasons, obviously.
Yo, what's poppin', everybody? It's the No Level Cap podcast. We back once again with the crew to talk about all the anime, all the gaming, all the nerd culture, none of the bullshit. Let me introduce my incredible co-host. We got the collector of collectors, the master of Twitch, Will Coleman. What's going on, Will?
Not much, man. Just been slowly and surely working on this review series of mine that I've been doing on YouTube, trying to get that kicking again on my third one. Finna start writing the script out for that one and pick this up. So yeah.
Oh, awesome.
What is that?
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Star
Ocean R.
Oh, okay.
Went on and got this, and I got the Final Fantasy 14 cookbook, so I'm gonna be in the kitchen soon.
I was playing demo for that today. Star
What-
Ocean R.
Hold on, what is in this cookbook?
It's stuff that's in the game, literally. Like they even have I'll just pick it up for you to see it, but yeah.
Hey!
Final Fantasy 15 cookbook.
The fact they actually made a cookbook, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
15
got
definitely needs a cookbook.
It
I
do.
agree.
I would buy it. But yeah, it's a bunch of recipes from stuff in different places in the game, like, cuisines of that region and so on and so forth. So
That's
yeah,
actually
it's a
pretty
lot of
baller. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Next up, we got the Black Daredevil, the secret weapon of No Level Cap, Terrence Flowers. What's going on, Terrence?
Things are good on my end. I checked out the Scott Pilgrim animation with my roommates, watched the first 3 episodes. It's really cool. The art and the animation are great. Like it looks so cool. And what's interesting with this is, and I mean, I'm not going to get into spoilers or anything like that, but it seems like what they're doing here is almost like the equivalent of like an Evangelion rebuild or like a Final Fantasy VII remake.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, where I thought initially, I think a lot of people thought that it was an adaptation of not the movie but the graphic novel, but no,
Right.
It's like they're doing their own thing with the animation. So it's like the movie, the graphic novel, and the animation series, like they all have their own story going on, which is kind of neat. I like that. I think that's a cool way of doing it. It makes it where if you want one particular story, you have to read or watch that particular thing, So, yeah, but I think
I'm excited to check that out. I'm glad that I have not occasionally I'm like, oh, I should check out the original just so before to refresh my memory.
Mhm.
Finding out that it's not faithful at all, I'm like, cool. No need for me to go back and check it out.
Yeah, I definitely recommend everybody check it out if you're a fan of the movie or the graphic novel. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm super excited to get into that. Next up, we've got the living cartoon and the man with the golden voice, Rakeem Beck. What's going on, Rakeem?
Nothing much. Is work heavy week this week, so I wasn't able to do a lot of other stuff. I'm still playing Aliens Fire Team with some friends. Still getting into still playing MK occasionally. I did actually try out the Star Ocean game you just bought for a demo today, and I was quite enjoying what I was playing. I was like, wow, this looks good. This plays good. This is quite good. But yeah, my backlog is infinite. There was a sale this weekend for Black Friday on PlayStation, so I actually picked up, I think, Dark Souls 3, because I always wanted to try that game. And I played a little bit of that, so I've been getting Dark Souls a little bit. But other than that, everything else has been copacetic, and I'm looking forward to tonight.
I'm not gonna lie, I have to respect how every week you come at us with a different game.
I know, right? I gotta respect it.
Hey man, he be playing them, bro. He get it dates back to even back when he was in college. He always had hella different games he was playing. At least now he finish them though. Back in the day, it was just be he'd get I don't know 15 hours into a 40-hour game, and be like, all right, that's it was cool. And start playing another game. Now he getting through them. Lastly, we got One Punch Man, the master of combos, Devin Butts. What's going on, Devin?
Good, man. This week, well, actually, this week and a little bit of last week, just trying to pump out some Mortal Kombat content. As we all know, Omni-Man just dropped in on Mortal Kombat 1. He's been hot in the streets. I'm not gonna say everybody's playing him, but he's pretty popular online right now. That's always the DLC characters are popular. Actually been doing some research on Tubi. And for some reason I just started watching Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds again, just out the blue.
That's the best one. So good choice.
Yeah, it's
Classic.
definitely like the coolest one to me. All these new ones just look so crazy and over top, which that's weird.
They're more like Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. So mainly just been doing that, man. Playing online, and that's pretty much it, man. Just work, playing video games. I need to catch up on Jujutsu Kaisen though. That's the one thing I do need to do, man. I'm behind on that.
Catch up on it before Mappa ends it all.
I know, right?
Before one of them animators rightfully burns the studio down, like, hey man, I can't take this shit no more, and just like quits. Tell everybody, hey man, just don't show up to work more. Just
Season ends in 2026.
They need a break. Like I don't understand like why
I
they
agree.
working boys like that. Like it's out of control, man. I don't understand. But lastly, of course, I'm Sage Ashford, the man who won't shut up. Look, I'm proud of myself. I finished Trails to Azure earlier this week. That means I'm done with the Crossbell duology. It took me about 90 hours to get through both of them together. And I just started last night / this morning. I started Super Mario RPG. Beautiful game. I had a smile on my face. I only played like about an hour of it, but I had a smile on my face the whole time, just bouncing along to the music. Like I still remember parts of the map, even though I haven't played that game in about 20 years. It's just like it left such an indelible mark on me that I just loved every second of it. And seeing it again, recreated so lovingly, is just, oh man, like 2023 really is like just a gift to gamers in general. We should be so blessed as to have a game year like 2023 for video games every year, because it's just insane. If you didn't know, No Level Cap goes live every Monday morning. We're on YouTube for video fans. If you like the audio version, we're live on Spotify as well. We've also started game streaming Thursday or Friday nights. I'm not gonna lie to you. Around about 8:30, you'll see me, Rakeem, Devin playing video games together. We're getting into Yakuza. Well, we're getting into Lost Judgment. We're getting into like the deeper plots. We're starting to slowly see like, okay, it's deeper than just what the initial basic plot is, which is just like a murder case. And you starting to see how it's like, oh, it's high. Like you got to go a little higher than that. You got to go, and that's always the way Yakuza goes, or like Yakuza universe games go. So I can't wait till we somehow punch in like the Prime Minister of Japan in the face, or the Prime Minister of Education in the face. Like, hey man, this is your fault. It's got to be your fault, because we can't just call it a systemic issue. But yeah, it's pretty fun. So this week we decided to review another anime classic. And this is going to be very interesting, because from my understanding, at least talking to Rakeem, who's the only person I got a chance to talk to about the movie before we did the podcast, the dub and the sub versions are not quite the same, or you wind up walking away thinking differently about it based on whether you watch the dub or whether you watch the sub. And so we checked out the 1994 film Street Fighter II, the animated movie. And so I want to know, let's start with Rakeem so we can set the tone right off the bat. I want to know, like, what's the difference? How would you think of the film, and what's the difference to you between the dub and the sub, Rakeem?
So honestly, my honest opinion about this movie is just like, is the definition of okay. It's up to animation. I think the animation is pretty good, but everything else, like story is just serviceable. The action's kind of just okay. The characters aren't really doing that much for me, except for like some interactions between like Guile and Chun-Li. I thought they actually had a pretty cool dynamic between them, with like this kind of older brother, little sister kind of dynamic they had. I think the worst thing I can say about this anime is that, like, because the story is focused on just a few set of characters, it felt like those two characters got time to shine a little bit, and everybody else was just a cameo. They just were just showing up and say, hey, what's up? It's me, DJ. You remember me, right? Beat some guys up, and you never see me again. Zangief, 30s, do a spinning power driver. That's my move. You ain't gonna never see me again.
He got bit in the neck, and then they was like, all right, well, that's it.
Yeah. But going back to what you were talking about with the dub and sub. So when I first watched this, I watched the dub version, and I'll be honest, it just wasn't holding my attention as much as I thought it was going to be. And then I was kind of losing out on some plot stuff, and then I got towards the end, and I just wasn't enjoying certain elements of it. I think the first part was like something a little nitpicky for me, like when they said Shadow Law instead of Shadow Lu, and we talked about this with Terrence earlier. There might be an issue with the translation itself, and some changes there. But it just like almost immediately took me out. Like when I heard that, I was like, oh, well, this ain't gonna be super to the source material. And of course, Street Fighter always has had these weird things going on, like the name change between M. Bison and Vega and Balrog, and how that's different in America than Japan. So that was expected for me. But I think the major issue I've had between the dub and the sub, and it might not even just be the translation, it's the music. Like the music between the dub version and the sub version, like night and day. It's kind of like I never really understood this, but when I was younger, how like I'd see anime fans complain about musical changes. Like Dragon Ball Z was a big one, where like the soundtrack and feel was very different. Until I watched long form Dragon Ball Z and heard like the orchestral like sound and the vibe of it, and the DBZ vibe of them. They have different tones, and that means the scenes change. And I feel that in this movie. One good example is that like in the dub version of this movie, like every time Ken's in the car, you hear some just freaking 90s rock and roll, like soft core, like rock. And I'm like, what is this?
It's a 90s grunge. And
playing some Alice in Chains.
Yeah. And I'll throw you this here too, King, while I got my mind on it. It fits because every time Ken is somewhere in that car, he's in Seattle. Seattle is the home place of the grunge. I guess genre. So,
boy.
Okay.
But like that part, I remember one scene in particular at the end when they have like the climactic battle, very different tones in the soundtrack, and makes the scenes feel different. So when I watched the dub version, I wasn't really feeling it. But when I watched the sub version, when I heard like the original soundtrack and the Japanese soundtrack, I really got into the scenes more. Like I was more focused on the scenes as I was watching them, and it felt more in place. It kind of felt like some parts of the dub version just were like out of place for the time. And that's just like, it's 1994, and anime fans, new anime fans may not know this because I feel like anime now is a little more respectful of like, and not that many changes. Back in the day, when an anime came to America, they intentionally tried to make it feel straight for, feel better for an American audience, where they would change names, they would change the soundtrack, they would change scenes, they would do all types of cut stuff out, they would neuter certain things, change scenes around, stuff like that. So I think that's a part of it. Just that sign of the times where the feeling is a little different because of the soundtracks there. But going back to the overall for the movie, I just think it's just like the definition of okay for me. Like, as far as the plot goes, it's pretty straightforward. Shadow Lu, bad. Good guys try to fight Shadow Lu. Ryu's homeless as always. Ken loves it. Ken loves his wife, doesn't want nothing bad to happen to her. I will say my favorite part of this movie is also they had an unnecessary sex scene, which is another sign, not kind of nudity scene, not sex scene, nudity scene with Chun-Li, which is another sign of the times because that was just random as hell for me. But my favorite scene actually in this movie is with Chun-Li and the Vega fight because it had like the most like intense, serious moment of the whole movie. I feel like nothing else had like real consequences to it. Like the robots be trying to find the world warriors all over the world. They be fighting each other, and it just didn't go anywhere. Nowhere. But the Chun-Li Vega fight, like that had stakes. Like he was there to take her out. Like he was not playing. They went at it. That's probably my favorite fight in the whole movie. And like her, like barely getting together and hit him with the kicks and knock him through the wall, which is kind of ridiculous. And then like collapsing and going to the hospital. That was really cool. I hate she kind of went out like that because she's the main, the first female of fighting games and things like that. But at least she went out on her sword, so to speak. So it kind of felt a little more impactful. What you about to say, Sage?
I just think apparently that shower scene was well known back in the day. Like, like people was like, hey man, you got to see the movie for that.
Yeah, that was definitely well known. Like that's one of the most standout scenes of this film. Yeah, without question.
It's so silly. I was like watching it. I'm like, all right, here we go again with this horny as fuck for no reason. Like, because they just kept panning. It's like showing her ass and like I'm like, what is going on?
It's
like,
definitely fan service. Yeah, I mean, it's just
for sure. Like
fan service.
Yeah.
That shower scene was long as fuck. And then the other thing I was gonna say is, man, she went down. Like she went into a mini coma or whatever. And I'm like, you didn't get cut that bad. Like you compare that to like some of the shit we see now, like some of the injuries that protagonists will take now, and they still be standing and they walk it off. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess. Because she was just like, she got cut a few times, was definitely bleeding, but like not enough to like fall into no coma, you would think. But that almost makes it more realistic of a fight. And then the other thing, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the other thing I'll say is, if she did kind of go out in a way that I'm not happy about, but I do like the fact that she went out fighting one of the top generals, like, and beat him too, like soundly.
Yeah.
So other than that, go ahead.
Yeah. But yeah, that was like my favorite fight scene. The other fight scenes they just weren't doing it for me. I think one problem this movie has is that like the hero will have a fight and then it feels like they'll be getting their butt kicked and they just beat the dude real fast. Like one move, that's it. Like boom, sure, like you down. So like the build of the fights just didn't until like the final fight where they got enough build with M. Bison. Also this movie has like weird cuts to me, like in the fight scenes. It's almost like a real movie, like with a cut close up where you don't see certain actions, like a dude be coming down, but you like one part where M. Bison is like floating, they only show his feet. Better go straight to his feet when he starts floating, like, oh, he's floating. It's like they don't want to see the wires, but like this is anime. You can show the whole body. Like what's going on, sir? Yeah, it's like weird cuts, almost like a real show, TV show, or a real movie where they cut out certain angles so you don't see like the TV magic, so to speak. That could be a cost-cutting measure. I'm not sure, but that was a little weird. It kind of threw me out of it. But yeah, overall, so I don't go long. I just thought the movie was just kind of okay everywhere. Some of the animation is actually pretty good, but like the fight scenes, just okay. Story, not much of anything. The character builds, not much of anything. Like they didn't really do, except Guile and Chun-Li, they had good character development. I thought they actually had a storyline, character development, interesting things going on. But everybody else kind of was like, you know, Ken, oh man, when's Ryu getting back? Is he back yet? He come back, man. We need to fight, man. We got to finish this, man. But yeah, I just thought it was okay. I give it about like a 6, honestly.
Okay. A 6. Okay, so that's one. I'm curious. I really want to see. Okay, we'll see. Will, what do you think of the movie?
Okay, so I watched the dub. I watched it purely in English. I'm like, you know what? Let me watch this in English just to see how well this goes. I want to see how much of a product of its time it is, and boy, is it. Rakeem mentioned the soundtrack and how it's different between the two movies. It's a lot of licensed music throughout that whole movie in the dub. It is so much licensed music. Like, it's to the point where, like, if you was to even try to tell yourself to react to that on YouTube, your video is already gone for you to put it up. So yeah, I've heard Alice in Chains. I heard Korn at the end. I heard quite a few bands throughout that, and it threw me. It threw me so hard. I'm like, I know these songs. Why am I hearing them in this movie? Who chose to put these in here?
Man, that licensing budget must have been deep.
It had to have been, because there was like at least a good 5, 6, 7, 8 songs from different albums of that era. I'm just like, yeah, y'all had some money to spend. I do like a few of the fight scenes. I do love the Chun-Li Vega scene. I do also like the Fei Long scene, the Fei Long fight, because I feel like that's kind of the second best one to me, in my opinion, because I kind of enjoy how that played out, because they were kind of showing how much of an asshole Fei Long is, even though we know who he kind of represents in the real world in a way. So that was fun. I also kind of, what's the word I'm looking for with some of the stuff they did. There's quite a couple stereotypes in this. DJ being one of them, because of the way he spoke. I was like, bro, you sound like my uncle. Like, I'm gonna need you to slow down.
Honestly, it wouldn't be Street Fighter without stereotypes.
You right.
A little bit, yeah.
Right.
And to be fair, he still talks like that, even in the games now.
I mean, yeah, but I think he represents more of Jamaica in the current game that he's in.
He kind of was
that's
lightly
true.
Jamaican in this.
Yeah.
He was lightly Jamaican in this one. He was hip, happening, and whooping ass. And then as soon as he said something like "shit," I heard him say that. I said, "Oh, who voiced you? Who voiced you? Who told you that?"
He wasn't going either. He wasn't going either. He didn't take no L.
Yeah, and I also didn't too much care for the robots either, because they were just kind of like background characters. Like in the DJ scene, there's one standing back there just chilling, just hands in his pocket, jacket on, hat low, just looking.
You asked who voiced him, and it's Jet Black, Bo Billingsley.
God damn
Really?
Yeah.
it, really?
Yes, sir.
Well, put in
Here's
work.
Steve Bloom in there too, so it's like,
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
a
he's
lot
one
of
of
them were
he's one
sprinkled
of the
all throughout
drivers.
this.
That was T-Hawk.
yeah.
Well, God damn.
Gal's voice sounded like the narrator from Full Metal Alchemist. I promise that's the same guy. From some anime, I know that's the narrator.
And speaking of other voices, Ken.
He is a narrator for Bleach, apparently.
Bleach.
I know it's some anime. I'm like, I know I've heard their voices as a narrator.
He's also Jin from Samurai Champloo. And a couple other major
Okay.
characters. Don Patch from Bubble Bo. A few other
Oh
characters here and
God,
there.
Don Patch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask who was Ken's voice because I ain't gonna lie to you. He made Ken sound a little country throughout the movie because I'm pretty sure y'all heard a little bit of that twang in his voice when y'all was watching it. If y'all didn't, please go back and look at some
Ken
of
is
those
from
things.
Ken's voice actor is from Nashville, which is kind of funny.
Good work.
Good word, very good word. But overall, just to go ahead and kind of cut myself short here. It's a fun movie. It's a good time for huge hardcore Street Fighter fans. If you're a hardcore Street Fighter fan, you'll love this movie for all it does. Fan service, references. If you notice Cammy's super that she did on Homeboy at the beginning, yeah, all of that. If you are a big fan of pointing out those things, you'll love this movie. What's up?
That super actually came from this.
Yeah, that's what I was pointing out because I was like, so that's where this came from. And I also
what
got
a
to mention-
super and what a super it was.
Woo!
That dude
Wasn't it?
did.
Oh my God.
That man-
As soon as I saw him, I was like, yeah, it might be over with for you. And then I was like, yeah, it's definitely over for that guy.
Yeah, it's a wrap for this man. But yeah, it's a cool movie. It's something that I can just sit down and watch and have a nice little fun watch with. I give it about a 6.5. I give it about that. It's not nothing that I rant and rave about though.
Hey, did anybody see that little mini? I think it had a Kuma cameo in like the India.
I did
he
see
was
that.
chilling
just
in the
sitting
back.
down on a
yeah,
bench.
yeah.
Like,
I
British
must have
came up.
missed that. I gotta go back and see that. I must have missed that.
Oh no,
I ain't gonna lie.
go
If I know how this movie ends, because of course they have that famous ending scene, which I'm sure somebody else will talk about at the very end of the movie. But it'd been kind of cool if Bison they did this part where Bison shows up, just gets freaking destroyed, and Kuma just show up like, "What up?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, let's go."
all right, so we got a 6 and a 6.5. Still nobody. I still want to see. Devin, go ahead. Tell me what you thought of the movie.
I actually enjoyed watching this again. I watched this a long time ago, and I can't remember if I watched the sub or dub. But I mean, it's a movie. I definitely the Chun-Li fight versus Vega is like the main thing that I remember from that movie. Is like the most iconic thing from the movie for various reasons, obviously. You know, I first want to say though that I saw throughout the movie, I was like, you know what? This has the new challenges in it. And I was like, when did that game come out? Because I started making connections here. I was like, this came out in 94. New challenges came out in like 93. And I was like, this is literally just like marketing for that game because all the new challenges here, T-Hawk, DJ, Cammy, Fei Long. I was like, this was just kind of like marketing. I mean, it wasn't like right after, but it was close enough. It was like, hey, go see the movie. These characters from the new game, a new expansion are in this game. And Akuma being such a small cameo was kind of like them hinting at, oh, he's a secret character. He's in the game, but like they just kind of brushed over him. So I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know if that's exactly where their mind was, but I feel like it was a little bit. Again, the animation is just, I think most of these movies that we watch, these like 90s movies, the animation on all of them are like pretty solid for the most part. Like there's just a certain distinct style back then. It's just like, it just really translates well. Even now, I mean, the characters look spot on. Have to give them props for that. Everything just looked phenomenal. We just talked about the Cammy scene, which she was in the movie for like all of what, maybe 30 seconds.
The most.
Well, she had a scene. She had a scene after that.
Somebody.
Yeah, she broke a man in half, like literally.
They answer like,
Yeah.
what happened? I don't remember.
But it's so funny how she was like Ezio in the crowd incognito, and then she just comes out. Why would you take the thing off? Like, aren't you?
I guess
thought that
like
was weird.
the way that Bison was using, or Vega, because I was listening to the sub. I guess the way that he was using her was like they're disposable. I can like brainwash. I can always
Yeah.
brainwash another soldier or a fighter and send them out there and do whatever. So
Yeah, it's like at that point you just might as well go in guns blazing.
I know, right?
But I will say, like, this movie, like, you got to come into this movie just like it's almost like Dragon Ball in a sense. Like, there's not gonna be too much like super deep story here because it's basically just like going off of the lore, like the game. Bison Bad, Gal America. You know, that's basically that's basically what I can't remember what Gal said to Chun-Li when he first met up. That was hilarious. He just basically blew off like, "Hey, get out of here, girl!" Like,
man, it was so sexist.
Like,
I don't
he
want
said
to
something about nothing,
her
some
bison.
woman. I'm like, dang, Gal, I thought you was a family man.
A
Yeah,
family
you telling her to go home and be a wife.
And it's like he drives like a Mustang. I'm like, dang, that's like the most like an American muscle car like this. That's so crazy.
And he was driving a stick.
Yeah,
I
he's
know,
like,
right?
Was driving stick.
hard American muscle right here. I'm not sure if they have the canon of like because Gal didn't know who Ken was, but in the story, Gal is Ken's brother-in-law. Like he's married to Eliza, so I don't know if they had any
It's not
in this
established
movie.
yet.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
I
I
was
was gonna
thinking.
say that. Well,
Yeah.
I'll let you finish, but yeah, go.
Yeah, because I was like, he must. So I know if he would have to know that Eliza, if that's his sister, she's dating Ken. But I was like, that's not that wasn't like necessary for the story or just the movie in general. I guess I forgot like this movie was kind of violent, like in the violent parts, like when they went in the old dude that was running away, he got shot in the leg, and all of a sudden Jay Jonah opened the door up on him and pulled out the typewriter. I was like, dang. Like it's just supposed to be like doing articles. Yeah, I just let this unloaded on the man. I'm like, dang. I don't remember seeing it. And then, like, of course, the scene with Chun, I'm like, dang. I guess I watched it so long ago, I forgot how like in the violent parts, this movie was violent, like really violent. Like, and of course, that scene with Chun-Li, like the anime was like, yeah, man, they took their time with that one because they was like, I was like. As Say said, when that scene came, they like pan to the outside very slow. Then they go back into. I'm like, all right, okay, we see cheeks and everything else. All right,
It's the longest shower scene. I'm like, bro, like we get it.
We get it. We get it. That scene, I do think like somebody kind of wanted that scene to kind of have like a horror vibe to it because the music was very like tension filled, imposing. Like there's some threat looming, and it's all. Go ahead, Will.
Okay, so you just mentioned the shower scene and how they kind of made that scene a little uncomfortably long for what it was. You know what I just thought about?
What was that?
Her creator. he was a little horny something when he made her. That's why her thighs so big. So I feel like that might have been more or less a nod to him because he like, I like that, put that in there. And I think there was also like a story where like when he made her, someone said, why is her thighs so big? And he like stopped her, grabbed her by the shoulders and said, because thighs are life. And then kept walking. So apparently he was just a thigh man. That's why Chun-Li is here.
Thighs is life. Okay. Well, I know what part of the chicken is his favorite. Anyway.
Fair enough.
Fair. Very fair.
But it's like, like that horror trope, but like there's always a scene a woman's like in a shower or something. It's like some alien, some creature or some
pretty much like the
intruders
psycho
coming in.
Yeah.
It's like coming in like, and I mean, let's just be honest, like Vegas pretty much pretty boy Jason. He got the mask on, he got the claws, so it's like he coming in there like, what's up? What's up? That scene was dope. Like, again, that's the best fight scene in the movie. Like Rakeem said, it's the most stakes. It's the most hands being thrown. Like they was throwing hands. Like they was fighting.
Dang,
like Vega was trying to kill her. She was trying to do the same. Also, there was a scene where Bison was talking about her father. She was remembering him like falling.
Yeah. So let's just go ahead and say this. Clearly, in this movie, there is no. For me, it was a Tuesday. None of that shit. He remembered everybody he fucked over. All of them.
But it was so fun. I laughed so hard. The jump cut from them talking about her father to just see him. That was like, that's the weirdest cut. That was like no like transit, just like a Mortal Kombat. And apparently, falling is just a thing in this movie. People Ken almost fell. Vega got knocked out and fell the same way as her father. It's like. And then Honda and Balrog fell. It was like,
I was going to say at the end of the movie, everybody was falling.
It's like,
Yo,
is this a trope?
Everybody was taking it.
Devin, do you remember what happened after Vega fell? They panned like to Bison his minion. He was like, "So what happened to Vega?" He was like, "Yeah, he about to get executed, New York style." I was like, "What does that mean?"
You know what's also funny? I will say with the movie, they got like the characters down great. Like this is Bison to a T. Bison was literally walking in front of his three. I think they call them like
The Four Kings.
Yeah, the Four
That long
Kings.
ass walk
I was
scene.
just about to, like, why was that scene so
Yeah.
long?
Yeah,
It was like
great.
Show how
5 minutes,
physically
bro.
imposing they all are. 'Cause shoot, they
Yeah.
got some wide ass shoulders. Like,
yeah. Hey, they were
All of them
was
look like
like,
I'm like, that's your boss. Why
they
you
was
running
like
from?
they was ordered by height, like Bison. Then you had Balrog, Vega, then Sagat. It's like, hey man, this is a hierarchy of power here. And then what Bison said when he got in there, he's like, "We found Ryu, sir. Well, you know, if someone can kick Sagat's butt, we need to figure out." It's like, yo, the disrespect. Like,
yeah, he specifically
like,
said
they-
if someone can beat the crap out of
that's a guy. We need to know where they at, man. Like, we need tabs on it right now, man.
Is that what the dub said?
That's
Yes,
what the dub
pretty
said.
much,
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what the dub
That's
said.
what the dub said.
Yeah.
Exactly
The
what
sub
it
was
is.
just like, hey, if he can defeat Sagat, he got to be strong.
Nah, if he can beat the crap out of some guy, we need to know where he at right now.
Which I found that to be hilarious. Like,
Oh,
That was too funny.
also, they actually I don't know if y'all noticed this, but the intro to Street Fighter 2, well, one of the intros when you let the main screen play, they redid that in the movie. Like when Ryu does his Hadouken, I was like,
is
that's
that is it
fire.
super or is it hyper? It's one of those
It's from-
iterations. I know what
it's
you're
from
talking
Super.
about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's on that one. I was like, that's actually pretty cool because he did the little bounce. I'm like, that's fire. And I know where King said the robots didn't go anywhere. Yes, they did. You know where they went?
Trash, man.
Trash.
After they got
Sith.
that bus whoop.
Sith.
Yeah.
Tell me
we
those
did like
robots didn't
Seth.
look just like
Oh,
Sith.
yeah, they
I
look-
thought that too.
yeah, they
I
do.
thought that
Out
too.
there
I noticed it.
trying
They
to
do look like
calculate people's powers and get. I'm like, that's ain't no but Sith. They just took that out. I don't know if they did it for show, but they had to. It looked too
Now that
much
you brought
like
that
Sith.
up, hey man, why Ryu have a whole power load, bro?
I was about to mention that they was like they got freaking scouters out here
Right,
like the
scouters.
beginning.
I was like, dang, he could beat up Piccolo in the Saiyan side. It was 36-20. I'm like, oh shit,
And it was like
Piccolo
the
was over
weirdest.
3,500.
It was the weirdest parameters like lung capacity. Like who cares about somebody's? I mean, obviously Dawson had like the highest, but it's like what? That's a weird stat. Like lung capacity.
You need good lungs to like fight because you need to be able to breath control and shit like that.
Yeah,
So I guess
that's
that
true,
matters.
but it's like they itemize too much on. It's like shoe size.
Well, I guess to be fair, Bison, he was trying to build the perfect fighter, right? Like that was
yeah,
the
yeah, that's true. Also, did y'all notice that robot that was? Oh my lord, DJ. I got something to say about specifically Balrog, but first that robot had a jacket on that said Jesus. Y'all didn't see that?
I did not.
Is that
see
what it said?
Yes, yeah.
Is that what that jacket
it had
said?
Jesus. Clearly, it's clear as day.
Must say Jesus on there.
I don't know. I'm like Jesus. Okay.
All I know is it was hilarious when who was it that figured out that was robot? Oh, was it Chun Li or was it somebody like
Zhao.
these robots
Charlie
been
was
telling
like,
the hell
"You
out of
right
us,
here."
and the motherfucker try to walk
He
off
tried to walk
casually.
That's when I knew it wasn't gonna go nowhere because like
Yeah.
Chun Li just came over there, kicked his head clean off like it wasn't shit. I said, oh, okay, so we ain't
Yeah,
doing
they
nothing.
were. They were
those
just
robots.
they were just reconnaissance. That's all they were there
They
for.
introduced them like they were supposed to be some cold fighters, and like I was thinking by the end of the movie they was all had to fight like robots, and then Ryu and Kid
Yeah.
would have to fight M Bison.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, she kicked the head off that robot.
Yeah.
It was like, yep, that's that plot going right there.
And it's like they doubled down on it because as soon as she kicked that one's head off, it was another one standing up on the top with a firefighter.
Yep.
No, I'm the real one. You just he the screw. I'm the real. It's like
Show the firefighter. I don't know
yeah,
why.
it's like but I'm about to end, but I gotta say one more thing. Balrog. Bro, why y'all
So racist.
do this man like this? Why his lips that color?
Why were they?
Why is he cockeyed in his
Why
like,
was his eyes
what
one
is
going
what
to the
the
east
fuck
and one
I-
going to the west? What the fuck was
like, bro? It's just like, come on,
Compass eyes.
man. Come on, bro. Like, I gotta do that, man. Like that, bro.
The only positive thing he had was he went to Vegas and he had to make the cocaine deal. He had to suit all. Too
He
tight.
did have that. That was,
Bruh.
but even then, it's like, why is he the one doing the drugs?
Also,
Like,
why did, what scene was
Somebody
he
got
like?
fun, Shadaloo.
He flexed the suit for some reason. I was like, and it was like just the most
Nowhere.
random scene.
Yeah, it was
Like somebody was
after-
fighting. He like flexed
Yeah.
the suit. I'm like,
Zangief
for-
and Blanco were fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Mhm.
why
It's
did
like
he
he about to
show
jump.
that?
I thought he was about to jump in. Like, oh, maybe he's about to jump into the
I sure
fight.
thought he was about to be like, yeah,
Because
this
he's a
fight getting
retired
bored.
fighter. Maybe he got the urge, again.
Yup.
That makes sense. It was like, no, we ain't gonna do anything about that.
Yeah. So one more thing before I get to my rating. Why in the world did Gal go in the hospital checking on Chun-Li was like, cause I'm gonna get Bison, man. Like he's flexed. What? Like
I'm
she's
gonna
in a
give
coma, sir.
Bison
Like she's in a
get
coma.
Bison.
He's just coming in
with
and flexing
American
like,
muscle.
yeah, America. Like that's the most random thing. Like
Isn't that one of his poses in some of the games though? Like
Yeah,
he's done that
that's
pose
what
before.
it is.
Yeah.
That was-
Yeah.
that's
That's
What
one
he
of his
does
famous
in the
poses.
background of his stage, right?
That's what he does when
in
he
the background of
wins.
his Stage, but that is a win pose in like
Yeah.
Capcom versus SNK. That came way later, so I'm just like, all right.
Like, he does it in Street Fighter 2. He does it in
He
OG.
does?
Yes. When he beats
I
you,
know, I know he took the dog tag off in 2.
yeah, he does the dog tag, he does the hair comb, and he does the flex.
Huh.
Well, maybe that's where
I
They just had to
believe
get
so.
flexing.
it might be.
Man.
So I got the movie over here, and I was like, did that really happen? And I looked, 'cause I like
Yes.
looked away from the screen, and I was like, oh, I found the scene. And
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Like,
He didn't
Yeah.
salute or nothing. He was just
I'm just
America.
America.
but in
Guns.
conclusion, I'm actually gonna give this movie. I'm gonna give it like an 8 because for the time for what it was, this movie was actually. I mean, if you were a Street Fighter fan, like this was like phenomenal for you. If especially if you watched it when it came out, you're like, man, it's the animation, it's Street Fighter. I will say the fights were lacking. The fact that they had T-Hawk in there for like all of 5 seconds fighting Ken, just like
I know, right?
like they didn't really do much with most of. They could have had a lot of good fights, like the Zangief Blanca fight was just super short. But again, I think that they translated stuff well. It was like marketing for the game too, so they did a decent job with that. I'll give it an 8 just because like I'm a fan of Street Fighter, and it's also much better than that live action. So I'll give it points just for that on its own.
Wow.
You right.
live action.
That live action was woo.
Live
Yeah.
action was-
And I will say that
Don't confuse.
when they brought out the anime series, which kind of was its own thing anyway,
Yeah,
I thought that was executed much better. Like as far as fleshing the characters out, the action, all that stuff.
flashy kick, wee, flat Sonic boom.
All right, Terrence, you want to go in now?
Yeah, this is interesting because I definitely don't view this film as quite as harshly. Like honestly, like I think it's a good time. Like I watched this film back when it came out on like Encore, back when I was like a teenager or so. I also watched it on, this might be reversed, so you might not be able to see it too well, but the Street Fighter Anniversary
okay.
Collection,
It's
the
right.
movie
Well, I
is
watched
on
it.
here. Funny
Wow.
enough,
Oh,
if you really don't want that Chun-Li scene, it's actually not on here. So, hey, you don't want to see the nudity, you can just watch this version, I guess. But
I mean, it's already in there. So, I mean,
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
if
it's
you're
just
that,
random.
if you feel that
it
type of
bothers
way
you that
about it,
much.
then
Okay.
there's
Gotcha,
an option
gotcha.
to
Yeah, you have an option.
But anyway, I mean, there's a lot of iconic stuff that comes from this film. For one, the Sagat versus Ryu fight where Ryu uppercuts his chest. Like you're seeing that for I'm pretty sure you're seeing that for the first time in this movie. That's where it's like established how that happened. You have, of course, the Chun-Li versus Vega fight. I mean, you all have already said enough, but that's easily the most iconic part of this film. There's also a lot of lore set up here that this movie isn't canon, but there's stuff that they take from this movie that they use
that winds up being canon.
Yeah, that they use later on in the series, like Ryu, how Ken uses his hair tie and gives it to Ryu for his headband. That's where that comes from. Even Violent Ken, that comes from this movie.
Oh, okay,
yeah, that comes from this movie, Violent Ken. This
Ken
movie,
being rich.
that comes from here.
this.
There's just a lot of stuff that was kind of like hinted at in the games where they kind of like showed you in text and whatnot, but this fleshes it out more, and then later on obviously they add more to it. But this is kind of like the stepping stone in terms of them really getting deeper into like Street Fighter lore. And I do like that it takes itself seriously for the most part. Like you all said, like this film is pretty violent, and then the way that it approaches its fight scenes, like the fight choreography, I think is done pretty well for its time. Are there some scenes where the fights are better than others? Sure, but I think that in terms of the way things are like choreographed, especially with the Fei Long versus Ryu fight, like I thought that was choreographed very well.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that if you're a Street Fighter fan, then this is definitely a movie to watch. Like you'll see, it's easy to see where later on in the series where they got like a lot of like inspirations, and where the series goes later on in his lifetime, you can kind of see that starting here. Now, I will say like the film isn't perfect by any means. I do agree that there's characters in it that they're just cameos, like T-Hawk, Blanca, Zangief, like a bunch of them. They just kind of like show up and they're just there to, I guess, show the World Warrior aspect of Street Fighter. They just go from location to location. They just show these fighters there, or like Bison's robot looking at them creepily, analyzing them and everything, and then they just move on to another thing. So in that regard, I do agree that the story, if they had taken that stuff out, it would have flowed better. But for the sake of showing off those characters and having them there as cameos, that's the reason why it kind of feels a little choppy at times, because I do agree that some characters just show up and it's like, okay, you were there for like a minute and you're gone. Even someone like Cammy, like characters that you, I guess, to be fair, because this film came out in 1994, it's like the popularity of certain characters hadn't been like fully established. So Cammy, I mean, we know she's like ridiculously popular now, but in 1994, it's like that wasn't quite set just yet. So her being there briefly, you know, kind of makes sense. Also, like Devin pointed out, like those characters came out in 93, so it makes sense that they're kind of just there for a little bit and then they're gone, just because they hadn't been quite as established as the original 8. When it comes to the licensing, like the music, I was fine with the music, but the thing that threw me off is the way that it's mixed. It comes in very loud. Like there's certain scenes where there's talking, there's certain times where characters are talking and then the music comes in and it's just like audibly just over them talking and just way louder than anything else that happened prior. So the way that it was mixed for me is kind of off, but the songs themselves are fine for me, just because, I mean, it's indicative of the time and I don't feel it's too out of place for certain points in the movie. Like whenever, I'll put it this way, with Ken, I think that makes sense because, I mean, he's American. And so him getting more like an American style soundtrack, that kind of makes sense. But at the same time, I can understand the Japanese version not having those songs because, like, they don't need
Why
that.
would they have those?
Yeah, why would they have that? There's no connection there.
They had Japanese songs.
Yeah. Which totally makes sense. It's like, yeah, back then they adapted anime to fit more so the audience, you know, more so than now, where they try to keep it as close as they can. But I mean, it's still, when you're adapting something, the whole point of an adaptation is to adapt it to the audience that you're reaching. So there's going to, of course, be some things that are slightly different. It just depends. Yeah, like, I mean, it's not always going to be a case where everything is done like the right way, but yeah,
you have to know what line to walk in, like how people walk that line is going to vary from company to company.
I guess what I'm trying to say before somebody says like, "Oh, Terrence, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about." No, that's like, I'm saying that, you know, you don't like, I'm just saying that no, you don't change the complete meaning of it. It's just that sometimes there's certain things that you adapt differently depending on the audience that you're talking to. That's all that I'm trying to say. But anyway, yeah, overall, like, I feel like this film, it's fine for what it is. It's indicative of the time, and I think that if you're a Street Fighter fan, then, you know, it's a good time. I agree about with Devin. I think I'd give it a pretty strong 8. I think if you're a Street Fighter fan, then yeah, like a good 8 is what I'd give it. But if you don't care about Street Fighter and, you know, you just go into this film blind, then yeah, maybe it would go a little bit lower than that. Maybe like a 7 or so. But yeah, I had a good time with it. And maybe it's just because I've watched it multiple times before and I'm kind of used to the way certain things are done. But yeah, it's totally a fine film for me.
Okay. So I watched this film. I had no idea. I had never seen it before going in, so I had no idea what the fuck was going I did watch the sub. I think me and Keem are the only ones that watch sub. I didn't even watch the dub. I found it. I procured this film and then I like watched the sub and I was sitting there chilling. It is. Let's get this out the way since nobody else brought it up, and it may just be because you watched it dub that it just doesn't read that way, but in the sub it definitely does. I got to give this movie congratulations. It's for 1994. It's like a progressive ass film for having two gay as fuck protagonists. Like, man, that's the Ryu and Ken, boy. Every scene they did, every flashback, boy, was gay as hell, man. I'm like, bro, this is the Shotokan, but like, nah, this is Shoto Sus brothers, man. Y'all gay as fuck. There's this one scene where like Ken accidentally hits Ryu and causes him to bleed, and he's like, "Oh no, did it hurt?" And then like the music starts playing in the background. It's like real soft, wistful, fucking romantic music. And then like he takes off his hair, his bandana, and like his long golden fucking hair comes down, and he ties the belt. I'm like, man, this shit gay as like, what is going on? These two are in love, and worse than that, like there's a part in the movie where like he's driving and he proposes to Eliza, but his flashback is about Ryu, and I'm like, what? Where am I?
Bro almost wrecked the car.
He did almost wreck the fucking car dreaming about Ryu.
I will say this: the dub had a funnier line for what she says afterwards. Because in the sub she says, "Oh man," she was like, "Oh man, that's really something wrong with you." And the dub she said, "Shit, I should have said yes."
Yo, that's a much better line. She was just like, "Oh wow, you're kind of out of it, Ken." I'm like, "You almost got hit." Like by a giant truck because he was all in the wrong lane and shit, fantasizing about Ryu. I'm like, man, what the fuck? I don't know, man. Like I was like just surprised to the point where I showed a friend of mine and she was like, I was not prepared for how shockingly gay that this was. Like the bandana scene is just, it's a lot. There's a lot going on there.
I have to say that's a fascinating take on it. Interesting.
Man,
Fuck no, like
Ship City.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was. I don't know if it was unintentional or intentional or what, but I was like, oh, this is curious. As far as the movie goes, I will say, like, I know it seems like I'm just like roasting it, but I'm not. That I thought that was like a interesting way to do that. But other than that, like the film itself, we talked about Super Mario Brothers, the movie, earlier this year, and I was kind of like, okay, this is solid. I would actually say this is a better adaptation of Street Fighter than Super Mario Brothers is an adaptation of Super Mario. Just because I thought the animation was much better. 90s animation being what it is. And you know, CGI, like I'll never love CGI as much as I love traditional animation. So that shit was just, the animation is beautifully done. The fight scenes, like they're short, but they're more realistic. Like they're not designed to be you know, Shoryuken, you know, like all it just spamming special moves. So like every special move, they kind of build up to it. The only fight that I legitimately disliked, well, not disliked, but like thought there was no reason for this to be here was Zangief and Blanca. Yeah. That had it was purposely.
It's a waste.
It was so short, like compared to like even like the E Honda Dawson fight scene, like that had a purpose. Like there was like E Honda gets to confront like Ryu. They get to, you know, like they hang out, they become friends. Dawson notices his power, and the fight had like a little back and forth to it. So that even had like a purpose, and it kind of looked cool. Compare that to like that Zangief Blanca fight. It was just like they threw a couple of their signature moves in, and they was like, all right, that's enough of that. I'm like, what? Why do we have this in here? Like, you could have just cut that whole scene, especially like the part where y'all were talking about with Balrog, where he was like flexing and like he just got excited. He was like, I'm about to jump in next, and then it went nowhere. I'm like, why is this scene here?
It felt like something got cut out the movie, and they just didn't edit it to make it feel like,
What's going on?
You know what? I just actually think I know what that is. He has a wind animation where he flexes his clothes on, and I think they just threw it in there randomly. It's like this is just make him flex his suit off.
I don't.
Wow.
They should have just done something with it more than that. Like I hope that I hope that it wasn't just what Devin said, because that's kind of lazy just to throw something in just because it's a reference to the games or whatever. The other reason why I think this is better than the Super Mario Brothers movie is because the music, like at least in the sub version, is just so good. Like so much.
It's good.
It's really like it really gets you into each scene, and like it's it's easier. It makes for an easier watch compared to like from what I'm hearing, from what Rakeem was telling me about the music for the dub version. It was just kind of like, I don't know. It just felt very Americanized for what Rakeem was describing to me. And like this just felt like they really the composer really sat down and went to work like they often did in 90s anime. Like a lot of the 90s anime, both movies, OVAs, TV shows, the composer often like went off. And like it showed in the film. Like I was engaged throughout, loved every scene. Loved most of the scenes. The only scene I didn't like flat out was just like the Chun-Li. Like I like seeing like I like Chun-Li, but like man, I didn't need all of that. Even the scene where they were like it was like Vega and Balrog, and they was all just sitting there, the Shadow Lu Emperors, they was all sitting there together. And then like they had the one scene where they just like the robot was showing Chun-Li and it zoomed in right on the titties.
I will admit, yeah, that scene was weird. Now that one I will admit, yeah, we could have done without that one.
And robot was like, "Now this is the kind of stats I'm talking about right here. This the kind of stats I'm looking for."
Hey, man, that man was looking at width.
Yeah, he came back with the 3 sizes real quick, bro. And like I was like, "What's going on?" And then like even M. Bison, because it's wild, because like my sub actually didn't like they just kept all the different names from the Japanese version.
I was gonna say if you want to make it easy on yourself, you can do like the FGC way, and it's like
Boxer,
Dictator, Boxer, and Claw. If you want to make it easy.
Yeah. But yeah, like with Dictator, as it were, he was like, "Hey, you want to take this? You want a little piece of it?" I'm like, "Hold on, what are we implying here?" Exactly. And like, you know, she came over there, tried to fight Chun-Li, and he caught Chun-Li unawares. It just didn't matter because Chun-Li was that chick. She beat the hell out that man, and he should have known to leave when she picked up a whole damn couch and just flung it at him. Like, what?
Just pick the couch up.
What made that scene so cool to me is that she picked that up after she touched her face and was like, "You cut me.
Hell no.
Hold up. Let me get the couch."
Flung that couch at that man. I was like,
heat action.
Bro, the last part is crazy though, where she's like she bled so much she's starting to like pass out, and all of a sudden her meter go all the way up, and she go for the leg kick man, through the wall,
kicked that man through a wall. Like it looked like it wasn't like a beat up hotel or nothing like that. It was just a regular hotel, and the force of her her super kick or lightning kick is that he just went through the fucking wall and fell out the building. And do you know if he's dead or not? I mean, like I'd assume so, but like. It wasn't clear, and then M. Bison was like, "Hey man, if he is alive, finish him. Why? Why didn't just go pick him up? He failed. The DJ scene like that, I don't know, like the stereotypes was definitely in full effect, even in the sub version. I hated the way the Balrog looked, like why he had them composite eyes, one facing left, one facing east, one facing west. I'm like, why is this? Why is them lips so drawn the way that they drawn? But I already know Dawson, at least he wasn't drawn like that, but he still was like, he didn't take nothing serious. He had a grin on his face the whole time. Like, why are you cheesing so much? Like, they just told you somebody was after your life. He like,
yeah. It don't matter to me, bro.
Hey, DJ, no matter what's going on, he always smiling.
Always smiling.
Guy was like, yeah, you know, Shadow Lu after sending some fighters after you. DJ was like, it ain't nothing to me, man. It's like, hey, bro.
Ain't nothing to me, man.
That's out.
The drop plot lines is really the only thing that I actually draw like a real issue with, because it's just like there's so many things, like so many missed opportunities, like the opportunity like for them to have gathered at least like a small, like they left Cammy in like the Interpol offices. They could have like tried to give her a little bit of a redemption arc. DJ, they didn't. I thought they were trying to recruit him. No, they was like, we ain't got time for all of that. And like the whole robot thing, I'm like, you could have done that. You could have done the robot thing, or you could have done we gonna have all four of them face all four of the Shadow Lu people face all four of like the good heroes, as it were.
That they could have been way better.
And it was like, nah, we not gonna do none of that. Instead, you know, we gonna team up Ryu and Ken at the end to fight a M. Bison, who for whatever reason could have like raffle stomped everybody, but threw off his cape, gave up his psycho power, and got beat up. I'm like, okay, but he wanted to run back, came back in that Capcom truck at the end, was just like, hey, no, in full outfit too.
Yo, the man in the truck trying to run over Ryu. That's like, and it's just like ends. I'm like, what a cliffhanger!
Like, well,
that is crazy.
Like, first off, how did you get this truck? Second off, why are you driving specifically an 18-wheeler? Like any number of things, but he was like, bump.
He still had the robots looking, man. He tell you where he at.
It was maximum.
Bet.
It was maximum insanity. But yeah, it's just a really good time. The plot, of course, is weak, but like with the animation being so strong, the good fight scenes being really good, and the music being great, like I give it a solid 7.5, 8. I fall on the side of it being a pretty solid film as far as like if what you're looking for is a Street Fighter film, like you could have it could have been done better to get like a 10, but this is about as good as you were going to expect from the average Street Fighter film, and quite frankly, way better than that live action film by like leaps and bounds.
Oh my Lord.
What's
Go
up,
ahead,
Terrence?
One thing I will say is that a lot that they kind of left hanging, it feels like they took this and it's like, all right, when we make Street Fighter Alpha, which was like a year or two later, it's like we're going to just dive way more into like the stuff with Cammy. I mean, Cammy's all up in Alpha, so it's like they go deeper into that, go deeper into Shadow Lu, other characters' backstories. So yeah, I just feel like this film, in the case of what Guile mentioned, like losing his friends, like a lot of the stuff that they kind of just left as like weird cliffhangers in this film and like weird plot points is like they actually just use that stuff later on. So it's interesting to see how much lore wise they kind of established with this film without this film actually being canon. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
I have a question too. Were there any adaptations of like the Alpha or Strike series? Like how later, we have a movie for Street Fighter 4 and like
there's definitely nothing. I don't know about Alpha, but there's definitely nothing for Third Strike.
Isn't there an Alpha movie? I'm pretty sure there's an Alpha movie.
I think there is an Alpha movie. Yeah.
Okay.
I felt like there was an Alpha movie, but
I remember it looking kind of goofy art wise, but I do remember there's an Alpha movie.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Street Fighter Alpha.
Oh, it came out 2000. Okay. Because of course after this, all I remember was the animated series, which I freaking loved.
You're talking about 2V
for Street Fighter 2.
Yeah, Street Fighter 2V, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Gotta be talking about that. Yeah.
Are you talking about the TV show?
Yeah, the anime Street Fighter 2V, right? I'm just making sure that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
The one where. What?
He said the one with the guy got the shotgun.
No, not the USA cartoon.
No.
Okay. Oh, I know. Okay.
Yeah.
The one where like he doesn't even do the Hadouken until like near the end of the
like he
the
actually
show,
has a theme for the Hadouken and everything, which is really
it's
dope.
incredible how they animated that. It looks so cool.
Hold on. The guy had a shotgun in that USA cartoon.
Yes,
he did. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He did.
He said tiger shot. No, buckshot.
Because that cartoon is wild. That's why.
Buckshots.
That cartoon
is very wild.
You've never seen like. If anybody watching this, if you've never seen the original, well, not original, if you've never seen a USA Street Fighter cartoon, please look up the opening. The opening will tell you all you need to know about how stupid it is. It's just like the best and worst ways possible. Just the way that, like,
and so many quotables.
Bison!
Yes! Bison!
No!
That's what we need to review. We need to review that shit.
Hey. Hey, Sagat, Ryu put that scar on Sagat, he said, hey, I'm tired of it. I'm done with the hands. I'll put out the gun. I'll pull out the stick.
I remember specifically there's a scene where Bison kisses Cammy and Guile's on the ground going, no!
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Oh, my God. Boy, that was a wild show, bro. But this movie, like, I appreciate them for, like, doing, the franchise as much justice as possible. Like me and Keem talked about this, but, like, this was a time where they were doing a lot of fighting game adaptations throughout the 90s. It was just like Fatal Fury, Battle Arena Toshinden. There's they did a what is it?
Tekken.
They did Tekken, and they did Night Stalkers, if I'm not mistaken. So they
Dark Stalkers, yeah.
Dark Stalkers, thank you. They did the whole gamut. They were just like, hey man, any kind of fighting game, we're gonna try to do something with it. And for this one, they actually did. Oh, they even did Variable Geo, which most people aren't gonna. That's a deep cut. But like they did as much as they could, and it was just all solid. So, or this was solid.
Most of them were the anime movies I remember watching were pretty okay.
Voltage Fighter Gal Kaiser.
So
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and honestly, this is probably one of Capcom's better movies, really.
Yeah.
In comparison to a lot of their other stuff.
Man,
especially now.
Yeah. I don't know how Street Fighter Alpha the movie was, although I've seen a clip of some of the animation, or I'm looking at screenshots of some of the animation. I'm like,
The art on that movie is kind of wonky looking. I'll put it that way, if I'm remembering correctly.
You are. I'm looking at. I Googled some of the shots, and I'm like, what is? Oh my goodness. I'm gonna send this, and then while we talk about this next, I do want to ask y'all. Aside from the main fight, the Chun Li Vega fight, what was your favorite fight? What would you say?
Okay.
Will, what would you say your favorite is?
It would be Fei Long and Ryu because it just felt right. It felt right to see that because Ryu ended up getting into this fight because they like, hey, who told you to open your lip and say something? Now you got to run the hands with Fei Long, and I love it.
He didn't say anything. He was just sitting there chilling.
That's what I'm saying. They just threw him in there. They just like, hey, he was talking shit. Beat him. I'm just like, no, that's not how this works. Ryu don't talk. He fight if he wants to. He walk around barefoot. He the hobo of the year. He gonna fight everybody.
This actually raises a question. The fuck was he going to all these different countries, man?
I don't know, but that's how they couldn't keep track of him.
He's just a wanderer. That's just him.
Hey, man, that shit ain't free. How the fuck you going from country to country?
Technically,
hitchhikes.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of established. Well, I'll let Devin speak to it because he'll probably gonna say the same thing I will.
Well, I think that you probably talking about like they say him and Kim were just so good friends. Like he's like, hey man,
yeah,
I got you, bro.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah.
I'm rich. You rich too, bro.
Yeah.
It's like every time somebody like, bro, you can't buy shoes. Like, yeah, he can. He just don't want to.
With this movie, I definitely believe that. Okay, so Fei Long versus Ryu, that's a good one. Man, that headbutt he gave that dude, not Fei Long, but the other guy, that headbutt was mean.
He put him down.
What you say? Devin, what's your favorite fight outside of the Chun-Li Vega fight?
I kind of like the little small kerfuffle versus Balrog and Honda. Good.
Headbutt versus headbutt.
Stupidest. And I was like, yeah, I thought about it, like, yeah, that's Balrog, but I'm like, he don't realize that this man, this sumo headbutt right here. But I actually think I like Ken versus Ryu at the end. Specifically the latter part of their fight where I don't know why I might be the only person that had this thought, but when Ken was piecing that man up on the side of that cliff, I'm like, oh, that's where Ken got the target combos from. That's the reference right there because that man was getting pieced up. Like, I don't know why that scene reminded me of Vegeta when he was on the side of that mountain versus Kid Buu. Y'all remember that scene? Where he got knocked into the wall and Kid Buu just rose up on him and was like, it's time. And he just started working it. I don't know why I thought about that. But it was pretty visceral. I mean, Ken pulled out a doggone Gatling gun on him. Like, all right, I ain't okay. He's just pulled out a Gatling gun out of nowhere. But yeah, I kind of think that, because I know Terrence mentioned the violent Ken thing. I kind of wish that maybe his hair had to change color, because I thought at first when he was in like the little chair, I thought his hair had changed color. I guess it was just the color of the wherever they were. Because I think actually like the character Violent Ken, his hair changed like white or something like that.
It changes into white, and he doesn't have it long and flowing no more. It goes up more like an afro.
Yeah.
This is just like the first time them kind of doing it, and then later on they establish it as more of a thing.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that scene, that fight was probably my best. Just that last part, they were just like kind of throwing hands. He was like, "No, my friend, fight back, man, fight back. No, they controlling you." Man, Ken like, "Shut up. Take these combos." I think that was my other favorite scene besides the Chun-Li and Vega.
Okay, that was solid. Terrence, what would you say was your favorite fight scene other than
Since we already talked about Fei Long versus Ryu, which I think is a good fight, I do think that the fight between Ryu, Ken, and Bison is good, just because. Like at that point, Ryu and Ken's like, "No, we're not gonna play this fair. It's like we're gonna tag team and we have to."
They had no choice.
They had no choice. And
why Bison just said, "I'll fight you straight up," I'll never understand.
Yeah, the fact when Bison took off the cape and he was giving them that work too, when he hit them with the crouching roundhouse, I was like, "Oh man, the
sweep." Man, when he hit him with that sweep and both of them over, I said, "Yo, why did y'all agree to fight this man? You need to run as quick as possible."
Yeah, I thought that fight was entertaining. Yeah, I think that was a good fight. It was good for what it was. Could there have maybe been more moments to it? Sure, just because I don't know. Fighting Bison is weird because it's like as long as he has psycho power, he's on like a different level from everybody else. Like just the way that he was just like putting his hands out just to stop people, and it wasn't until
and all the illusions.
Yeah, it wasn't until he stopped using it that they were able to actually like truly fight him, and then they hit him with the dual Hadoken, which that was cool. That's always a cool scene. So yeah, I'd probably put that up there. The Ken and Ryu versus Bison fight, and also I guess that kind of, damn, now that I think about it, maybe that's where in Alpha you have it in the story mode where it's like a 2v1 against Bison, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
that kind of comes from here.
Probably.
Probably, yeah.
Damn, like I said, there's a lot. There's a lot in this movie that they use later on. It's very interesting.
It's
like the
it's
beginning,
definitely the same background.
Yeah,
the beginning is a stage in Alpha. Like
it is.
Oh yeah,
where Sagat and Ryu are fighting. That's a stage in Alpha.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you're right. Oh, you're talking about Sagat versus
that little Ryu.
Yeah, Sagat versus Ryu. Yeah, that is a stage in Alpha. Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, just interesting.
I did like that fight. I do think that it would have been better if they had. I mean, like they style of fighting is one of the coldest styles of fighting in the universe. So they should have boosted that up a little bit more. Cause like Akuma not getting rocked by no psycho power. He'd be like, man, get that trash out of here and put that man dick in the dirt. So like I don't know. Like I would have liked if Ryu and Ken could have like fought better against psycho power, and then like they could have both gone like both sides of them could have gone like all out. That would have been cool. But I did like that fight though. I agree with you as far as like it being a good fight. Rakeem, what was your favorite?
So this one's favorite for a different reason. Probably that goofy Honda versus Dawson fight, because like watching them in motion was so hilarious. Like Dawson's gyrations look so weird in anime compared to like they always look weird to me as a kid. That's why I never played Dawson. He just looked weird to me, like how his movements and stuff. That was funny. But the best part was when Dawson got distracted by Ryu's presence. And E Honda comes to Ryu later after everything's over and like, hey man, here's half your money because you pretty much helped me win this fight. What's up, man? Take half. And they just cut. And I was like, did he take the money?
I was hoping when I said, how is Ryu going from country to country, that somebody would say, he took that money from me.
He took that money from me.
I think it's interesting how much screen time Honda got in comparison to some of the other characters.
He did.
Because Dawson is usually like a mentor,
wise man or mentor.
Yeah.
Definitely in the anime series.
Maybe I'm guessing because E Honda was Japanese, because that was that they kind of tried to sell it.
He did say the brothers.
What did he say? He said we're brothers. We're Japanese. Just like, oh wow, okay.
Also, when did Dawson learn mind control? Because I don't know the input for that move in Street Fighter.
I was like, man, I'm not no fighting game expert, but I ain't never known Dawson to be able to just freeze a man in place.
That's his. That was his V trigger.
That was V trigger.
It looked like it was
Yoga Flame. Yoga Freeze. That was his ultra. He got Yoga Freeze now, I guess. But yeah, I don't know why that part of that fight. Some levity in this movie was nice. Some scenes that were a little goofier. I kind of like that a little bit because it was a very serious movie for the most part. And Street Fighter is goofy a lot of times too, so you got to have a little bit of balance of both.
I would definitely say my favorite fight was a lot of them. I liked most of them. The only fight I didn't like was Zangief versus Blanca because it was just nothing. But since everybody talked about all the other ones, I'll say that the Ryu Sagat fight at the very start was pretty solid. It was a little poorly lit. I didn't like that part, but the fight itself, the way it was seriously set up, and just like how you knew what it was building towards, and so like you was still kind of at the edge of your seat, like when is he gonna do it? When is he gonna do it? And finally, like Sagat had that one moment where he slipped up. And Ryu was like, hey, man, it's time to give you that Shoryuken. I'm time to give you this scar that's going to last for 40 years, bro. Come here. Scarred that man chest up, knocked him over. I'm like, okay, there we go. And then, like,
to this day, I'm like, this man uppercutted this man's chest and left a huge scar. That's a rough uppercut.
Gotta be, bro.
He hit him with that same special move that Kenshin had from the anime when he got or learned his ultimate move. It was supposed to kill you.
Oh yeah,
but he had the reverse blade, so instead it just left a giant fucking scar on your chest about a mile wide. It's like, okay. But yeah, I like all those fights. It says something that we were able to come up with something we liked about all those different fights. So, but I think this is gonna wrap this week's episode up. If you liked it, I need a few things from you. I need you to do us a favor. Hit that subscription button on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on TikTok. Tell all your nerdy ass friends and family about us. And do me a personal favor and have an excellent week. Peace.